Welcome everybody, this is Lee Fitzgerald, your subject coordinator, and I'm going to do a voiceover of the PowerPoint presentation from the aborted meeting last night, the Adobe Connect meeting, which we couldn't have because Adobe Connect wouldn't work for me. So here we go. I really hope this helps you for assessment too. Okay, so this subject is about the role of the teacher librarian, and it deals with the teacher librarian in these categories that you see there. And they may well be the main concepts you've been grappling with as you wrote your blog task. So I'm sure you've gathered by now that our role has many components, possibly a daunting number of components, and you've definitely gathered the gap between theory and practice. So everybody, I've begun giving feedback on the blogs, and I find many of you are focusing on the teaching role at the expense of the other roles, our information specialist and library manager roles particularly. So this needs really to change for assessment task 2, the connections article. I apologise for the state of my voice. I've got a little bit of laryngitis and asthma, so I sound like I'm whispering and not breathing very well, but hopefully this will work this time. Okay. The Adobe Connect meeting was going to allow you to do some interaction on the various aspects of the teacher librarian role. So I can't do that. So I'm just going to give you my opinions basically on what the teacher librarian teaches. I think we teach information literacy above all, and critical thinking, and we teach wide reading. We aim to foster a love of reading in our students. As a curriculum designer and collaborator, we create inquiry tasks and we work with teachers to implement them and also assess them. As a resource specialist, we match resources to curriculum. We are becoming experts in digital resources. We are the fabulous reading promoters, especially now when there are so many wonderful digital literature examples and online reading clubs, such as Goodreads and Inside a Dog, which I know from personal experience students really love. So this is where you're up to in the subject. You've finished the discussion of topic 2, the role of the teacher librarian. You've looked at our aspirational standards from ASLA, the standards of professional excellence. You may have been a little bit daunted by them because they look at the teacher librarian as, almost a superstar, and they are expressed at a level of complete excellence. Try not to be daunted by them. You've read various authors on their understanding of the role of the TL. So you've read Herring and Purcell and Lamb and Valenza and Alinda Shearman. You've read about the importance of the enabling role of the principal. You've seen our support agencies and the need for accountability and research. You must be wondering why there's this lack of clarity over what the teacher librarian is for, why we need to be supported, why do we need to prove what we do. Isn't it enough that we're a teacher librarian? Is it that a teacher librarian is a teacher without a subject? I wonder. That may be one of the reasons. You've also created your blog, and you've submitted your blog posts, and I've started to give feedback. You ask these questions: how on earth do we keep up in our role? Why do principals undervalue us? Why do many teachers see the library as obsolete? Well, in response to that, I can only say, it's time to get past the stereotypes, and it's time for us to get less bothered by students thinking that teacher librarians just shelve books and therefore wouldn't need a university degree to do that, and the negative attitudes of some teachers who really underestimate us. What we need to do is educate them about the proper role of the teacher librarian as you are learning it and as you do it in your school. We need to show most of all that we make a direct impact on learning and results. The way to do this is to get involved in inquiry learning, or so I believe anyway. I also believe that we're living through a great time of opportunity for teacher librarians. If we're able to hitch our wagons to the stars of curriculum change, which favours inquiry learning and the enormous need for positioning technology in learning, and not just as a set of bells and whistles, I believe now is the time to leave behind the stereotypes and to educate people out of them. In week 3, the topic 2 forum, there were some negatives, naturally. Yes, there is a gap between theory and practice, no doubt about it. It's really important that the principal is aware of the potential of our role. So really getting the ear of the principal is the first place to start in any school. I find it really depressing that many schools don't have TL role statements. Maybe a place to start with the principal is to develop a role statement. The ASLA standards have been linked to the AITSL standards, and I'll talk about this later. How can we do it all, you ask? I don't think we can. I think what we need to do is prioritise what works for our school, what our strengths are, and go in the directions that we can cope with and which will ensure the best possible running of our role in our school. And you know, there's freedom in that. We're lucky to have that kind of freedom. Can you think of any other teachers who have such a freedom? We're lucky. Okay, so these were the positives from topic 2. Have a read of those. And I'll just natter on here in the hope that it's being recorded. Some of you discussed how the context of the school is going to define the role you have. This is so true, and defining your role must begin with your school, its demographic, its effect on student learning, its ethos and its particular pedagogical practices and changes. Many of you really value the literature promotion role, the taking of the wide reading classes, the close collaboration with English staff on this, the lunchtime book clubs, and Book Week. What would we do without Book Week? It is our most accepted role, and it'd be sad to lose it. I don't think we need to. It is actually fostered at present by the great digital presence in reading. You talked about Karen Bonanno's presentation at ASLA in 2011, A Profession at the Tipping Point, Time to Change the Game Plan. It talks about the effect of the Australian curriculum on TLs as boom or bust times, that it's down to us to grasp the opportunities offered by the Australian curriculum, the prevalence of inquiry, and to use the 5-finger plan to success. You know, it was a brilliant presentation, but it's 5 years ago now. Since then, she's been working on, Karen has, on how to actualise this with her analysis of the Australian curriculum and aligning it with guided inquiry. I've worked with her too, as well, working on establishing guided inquiry as a pedagogy for teacher librarians, so we don't go down the extinction track. Just a hint of this tonight. Okay, so how are we going? So you're up to topic 3, the TL and curriculum development, and one of the questions asked this week: what's an appropriate role for the teacher librarian in curriculum development? Do we just resource units of work, make pathfinders and so on? Or do we co-create, teach and assess units of work? I believe that, you know, we actually work along that continuum from the resourcing to the full deal of collaborative planning and teaching, units of work, inquiry units. Other questions asked this week: should a principal expect that teacher librarians would plan units of work with the teacher librarian? This module you're looking at this week, the TL and the curriculum, is short, but it introduces very important concepts like constructivism, inquiry learning, project-based learning, and very broad pedagogical changes and initiatives such as the Australian curriculum and pedagogy such as habits of mind, quality teaching. So it's broad rather than deep, and it's meant to be a background to what's coming next, which is our information literacy, the bread and butter, the backbone of our role. So to get down to tin tacks with the role, and in order to help you with assessment task 2, I just wanted to point out to you that it's a fact that teacher librarians will have to be accredited using the AITSL professional standards, which you see on that slide, just like any other teacher. So there are 7 standards aligned around professional knowledge, professional practice and professional engagement. And here are the levels of accreditation: graduate, proficient, highly accomplished and lead. How are we teacher librarians going to fit in to these standards? It's a really and the answer to it will help you with your second assessment task. So luckily, to answer that question, ASLA has produced the evidence guides for teacher librarians. This one here is those teacher librarians in the highly accomplished career stage, and it uses the national teaching standards to describe how a teacher librarian can meet them, what evidence needs to be gathered. So this evidence guide deals with our roles as teachers like every other teacher, but it also attempts to cover the information specialist and manager part as well, so the whole deal. ASLA is at pains to show that the examples given are not definitive. The document will be reviewed, that you might have examples of your own, suggestions of your own for evidence. I'm showing it to you now because I think it really gives you a simple, clear view of the role of the teacher librarian for assessment task 2. Okay, so moving along. I think I'm getting a bit quicker with this because my voice is ASLA's also released this evidence guide for teacher librarians in the proficient career stage, which is where a new teacher librarian would fit in because you're already a proficient teacher. Some of you who've been working as TLs for quite a while might already be at the highly accomplished level. So ASLA invites you to use this evidence guide when preparing your professional goals or setting your professional learning plans. And I suggest you use it for assessment task 2 as well, to look for the elements of the teacher's role and what they're expected to do. So I've extracted from some of the standards some dot points to illustrate to you how teacher librarians can demonstrate that standard, what evidence there might be of meeting it. So I'll just go through this really quickly, just looking at the sentence that describes what a TL does to meet this particular standard. So this one, proficient TLs develop learning programs that are differentiated for the specific learning needs of students across the full range of abilities. And then down below, the format of these standards are examples of evidence that you might be able to gather. You can also add to that. This is standard 2, knowing the content, how to teach it. So a teacher librarian here use their knowledge to contribute to the design and implementation of current curriculum, assessing and reporting requirements. This one, standard 2, still TLs in the reading role. Proficient TLs apply their understanding of how children and young adults become literate and numerate. And there are some of the examples below, and I suggest that these examples could be widened to include the effect on literacy of a wide reading program. You know, that's a really measurable and large. So this is learning programs, plan for and implement effective teaching and learning. So here it is, bread and butter, our central concept. Proficient TLs embed the elements of information literacy into learning and teaching programs. And there are examples there of how you show, and I will put in there also develop inquiry units. This one, standard 3.4, is intrinsic to the role of teacher librarian, the librarian part. How do we select and use resources? We work cooperatively with staff to develop, recommend, organise and manage print and online resources. They are responsible for developing policies as well for the selection, implementation and evaluation of resources. This part is very much about our information management librarian. This one is about TLs promoting and demonstrating safe and responsible ethical use of ICT. This is, also a very important part for us with the enormous expanse in information technology. We can be right at the cutting edge of integrating that technology into learning so that it is used to promote learning rather than just bells, which it can be. This is about assessing student learning, employing a range of methods of formal, informal, formative, summative assessment in the development of students' literacy and inquiry learning. And the examples are below. Sorry if I'm going a bit quickly, but I've done this 4 times now, and I want to get to the end of it. This one is about professional learning. Yeah, that's what professional TLs do. This one's about working ethically and responsibly with examples. So moving on to other aspects of our role, which I was going to have you discuss and can't because of my technology torture that has just rained down on me in the last couple of days. As a creator and publisher, a teacher librarian might have a library intranet. We'll develop resource lists, units of work, book trailers, newsletters, wikis, blogs, and libguides. As an information specialist, you'll use the library management system, for example, Oliver and Destiny and AmLib. You'll look for Web2 apps and you'll incorporate them into teaching and learning. You'll understand metadata and cataloguing and how to use the SCIS cataloguing service in order to get your cataloguing done so that you can concentrate on your role as teacher. As library manager, you lead a team and you nurture a team. You make sure that team operates efficiently. We really operate at the level of middle management. This is often difficult in a school because you might be the only person on your team, and that's a little bit of a difficult side. Oh, never mind. So there are two really outstanding star teacher librarians in our teacher librarian world, and one of them is Mandy Lupton. She's a senior lecturer and coordinator of the teacher librarian program at QUT, and one of her expertise is inquiry learning and information literacy. And what she's done is do an analysis of the inquiry skills in the Australian curriculum from foundation to year 12. What she wanted to find out was what inquiry skills are there, what's missing, and what's misaligned. And what she found basically in her research is that there are extensive inquiry skills embedded in the Australian curriculum, but there's not a process for teaching them. And by process, I mean information literacy model, such as you're going to be investigating for assignment 3. And what Mandy Lupton recommends that the teacher librarian's role in school as regards information skills in the Australian curriculum, we should marry inquiry skills with these general capabilities with inquiry learning. And we should be an advocate for a whole school inquiry approach. And your next assignment, the last one, which is the information literacy models report, asks you to investigate the various information literacy models there are, choose one that will suit your school and work towards advocating it as a whole school inquiry approach. So it's important stuff and it's exciting. The other bright star is Karen Bonanno, and what's connected to that slide there is her alignment of inquiry skills against the guided inquiry process, and she's actually done that for foundation to year 10 in the Australian curriculum. And the significance of this is that she's provided a scope and sequence for guided inquiry. She's identified core essential inquiry skills, and it supports sequential skill development, and it assists in the embedding of information literacy into classroom programs. And what it really does is provide a framework for student engagement in inquiry learning. So to sum it up, what Mandy Lupton found was a lack of an information process in the Australian curriculum, and Karen Bonanno provides that approach, or one example of that approach, the guided inquiry design process. I wanted to say here at this point that Charles Sturt does not endorse guided inquiry above any other information literacy model or pedagogy, but it is one that's developing very well at present. And I'll talk about it. Okay, so it's a good time to become a teacher librarian for the reasons I've just shown you, because there's a need for an inquiry process by which to teach inquiry skills that are intrinsic to the Australian curriculum. These are the icons from the guided inquiry design process, and these beautiful coloured ones are from cyber science. Teacher librarians can use these to work with teachers to create, schedule, implement and assess inquiry units. If you like, you can join Linda Sherman's and my Guided Inquiry in Australia community, which is linked to this slide. It's got lots of goodies about guided inquiry, and we've moved it recently from PBWorks to EduBlogs so that it becomes more interactive. And at the moment, Linda is actually blogging about her experience doing a Year 8 guided inquiry. So you'll see here there's examples of primary and secondary guided inquiry units and evidence-based practice, the theory and practice behind guided inquiry. And then as you go to the actual website, there are scaffolds for every part of the guided inquiry process. Okay, so guided inquiry is a good example of an information literacy model which is developing into a full-blown pedagogy. This is another reason why it's a good time to be a teacher librarian. You know, I was saying there were two really good reasons. The first one was the prevalence of inquiry skills, and reason two is the ubiquity of technological change. Ubiquity is a big word, it just means it's everywhere, but it sounds good. It provides another pressing reason why now is a great time to be a TL, because TLs can develop expertise in the uses of technology to support the curriculum and lead teachers and students in the discriminating use of technology. What you see here is from the New Media Consortium Horizon report from 2015, which comes out every year. The way it's presented shows the technological challenges, solvable, difficult and wicked. So it's just interesting to look at those. A solvable one, integrating technology in teacher education. Yes, we probably are getting there with that. Difficult, rethinking the roles of teachers. And really wicked is, I'm not quite sure what scaling teaching innovations means, but teaching complex thinking, whether it's in a technological environment or not, has always been a wicked challenge. If you look at the trends here, short term, mid-term, long term, interesting ones, the use of blended learning, STEAM learning, and their mid-term impact, the increasing use of collaborative learning approaches such as inquiry learning, and the shift from students as consumers to creators. And then the long-term impact, rethinking how skills work, and that shift that we must do to, embed 21st century learning, 21st century skills, is that shift to a deeper learning approach, where the teacher is no longer the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side, sitting alongside the teacher librarian. And down the bottom here, it looks at the actual technological changes. BYOD is definitely happening in quite a lot of schools, and I've heard you discussing with great interest maker spaces, and then you see these other ones coming, which we're certainly reading about. So all of these trends, I'm just trying to say to you, provide opportunities for teacher librarians to become indispensable in the learning of our schools. Okay, so getting down to tin tacks, you've got 3 assessments. You've done the first one. I've begun to visit your blogs, but I just wanted to say there's a lot of them, and I'm trying to give you useful feedback rather than just, going there and saying well done. Please note that the usual turnaround time for assignment marking is 3 weeks. This one won't take that long, but I can't be that quick because I'm having a technological torture, and I haven't been able to visit any today because of going onwards. You're blogging, just keep on doing it. There's not a set number of blog posts that you must make. The blog is meant to be your personal learning space. You use it as much as you like. Suggested there in that slide some areas that you might like to blog about, but on the other hand, you might like to just, record an aha moment of learning, or just make a comment on your own learning for the week. Only the first blog is commented on by me or Jenny, but you will use all your blog tasks to complete the reflection in assignment 3. that should say assignment. Okay, so the one that's coming up, the role of the TL, due on the 11th of April, not that far off. Its value is 40% of the total marks, 2,500 words, plus or minus 10%. The reference list doesn't count in the word count. Some things you could do to get ready: go and read the recommended connections articles, get the tone of connections, and see that it's got a nice balanced mixture of the technical aspects of our role, as well as the teaching one, which is just exactly what we want you to get in your response to the role of the teacher librarian. Look at the standards, look at the AITSL standards, have a quick look at the evidence guides, and do not forget the future aspect. In my marking of this task over the last few years, the ones who did really well gave a due attention and perhaps a visionary attention to the future role of the teacher librarian. Might not be an equal word count for the future, but really, gave a strong attention to the future role. And I must say that the New Media Corporation's Horizon report that I just spoke to you about is a really good source. Make sure you use the referencing guide in resources in Interact. And that's about it. Yeah, for assessment 2. And this is just foreshadowing assessment 3, the IEL models report, when it's due, ages away. And there'll be an online meeting about it prior to it on the 27th of April, which will hopefully work better than mine did. Okay, just getting ready for assessment 2. Read some articles, read some scan and access articles. There are practitioner journals. You should use them along with a balanced mixture of scholarly resources that might come from your own research and from the readings. We're doing a journal article to demonstrate the depth and breadth of your research, to show your understanding of new ideas and concepts in the research literature. I might say there also the practitioner literature. Show your ability to analyse and synthesise, articulate new understandings. That second last one there, your ability to write for a target audience, that's important. Get the tone of the connections articles and try and replicate that. And the other reason is just to give you practice in the kind of writing that you should use in your professional life. This is a journal article framework that I believe is in resources. I've checked to see. Barbara Coombs, who often delivers this subject too, created it, and she recommends using it to construct your journal article. That is, physically filling it out while you're, at the researching stage, and then moving it out of the draft form into the final article, so the underlying structure is not so evident, so you can make your own voice heard. So that's the rest of the journal framework. If this is too structured for you and the approach that you take to writing, then don't use it. I must say I think it's pretty good. Looking at the marking criteria for the task, taking on marking criteria at master's levels is a pretty daunting kind of a thing, because they're presented at the levels HD, D, credit, pass and fail, with quite a lot of words explaining how you would demonstrate the achievement of these learning outcomes, marking criteria rather, at the various levels. So I thought I'd just point out the important ones today. You need to be able to demonstrate knowledge and critical analysis of the literature about the role of the TL, not just the role, but the literature, scholarly and practitioner. The student is able to demonstrate an understanding different aspects of the role of the TL, and I would sort of add there, it'd be good to have it in a framework that actually underpins your article. Doesn't necessarily have to be, a complicated way of categorising the TL role. Could be just teacher, librarian, information specialist. But you can look at the various standards and other suggestions that I've made for getting yourself a schema, a plan by which you're going to describe the role of the teacher librarian. And then you'll see the marking criterion about future roles of the TL, and you see it's got a separate one for itself, so it really matters. So, look to the future as well as looking at the ideal present. Maybe not too much about the difficulties that we confront, but what is the present role at its best. Okay, and then what else? Show good academic writing skills and use the APA referencing summary and look at these common areas where mistakes creep in for APA. For example, the initial capitals in titles. In that example there, the life of a project, not the life of a project with all caps, initial caps. APA only has that one, the, as an initial cap. And put your journal articles in italics, which means that, sorry, that's wrong. Put the name of the journal in italics and put the journal article itself not in italics. Please use the APA guide while you're doing this because it just makes it easier. So this image is from Steal Like an Artist from Austin Kleon, and really it's just there for fun, and it kind of the black whiteness of it sums up the process that I've been through today with technology giving up on me. I've been right down to the depths, the dark night of the soul. It's really just there for a joke. And I just wanted to say I hope you don't get into the dark night of the soul for assignment 2. And if you do, just remember that Jenny and I are here. You can contact us by email, you can ring us. That's what we're here for. Okay, so this one's about submitting your tasks to EASTS, and you'll download your marked task back from EASTS. And just to reiterate, it takes 3 weeks to mark the assignments because there's a large number of you, some 130, and I will have some marking help. But even so, it will take 3 weeks because we believe in giving you really good feedback for your assessment tasks. This is something for you to go and look at when you feel like it. I got it from Renee's blog, and it's a really good YouTube video about the role of the teacher librarian that presents a nice schema for it, and it's also an entertaining and upbeat look at the role of teacher librarian. So thank you very much, Renee. And I'm just finishing off now. I hope I don't have to do it 5 times because my voice is really going. I just got some cartoons about what you are when you're in doing a project and deep in information overload and technology meltdown. This is me today. No, I think I'll go and have a nap. Oh my God, I'm doomed. I'm definitely a panicker. I think there should also be one for online shopper, because I have discovered through working at Charles Sturt that online shopping is a bit of a panacea for many problems. And for me, finding the ultimate Burberry raincoat on eBay has been, a labour of love and a great procrastination. So there's a few more. What do you do when you've got a big project ahead of you? Snack. Thank God for chocolate, or chocolate, as my granddaughter calls it. Yeah, so that's just light relief. And really, that's all. I wanted to finish up, on a light note. Say to you that good luck with this coming task, and I'm really sorry about last night's meeting. And to finish off with another YouTube video, which comes from the Blended Library from the University of Constance in Austria, and it shows what I believe is the immediate future for students researching in a library and working in inquiry circles and doing an inquiry task. I think it's very exciting, and it does show the power of learning by research and the value of technology in learning. So I think I'm finished. This is my 5th time at recording a voiceover. I wish you good night, and I wish you a very happy Easter. I don't know is how to save that. I think that's what I'm doing wrong because, you know,